This podcast is a part of the PodMania Podcasting Network. Check out podmania.co.uk to check out more of our great podcasts, features, reviews, match ratings and previews spanning the crazy and diverse world of professional wrestling.
Hello, my name is Simon Miller from What Culture Wrestling, and you are listening to the PodMania Pro Wrestling Podcast, and you better keep listening to it. Why? Here's why.
You're listening to the PodMania Pro Wrestling Podcast, a sample of the best pro wrestling podcasts we can produce on our tiny budget. Check us out on Apple Podcasts, Podcast Addict, CastBox, and all other podcast platforms. If it's wrestling you want, check out more of our great content at podmania.co.uk. Let's do this.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the PodMania Podcast. I'm your host, Rob Gunn. I'm joined as ever by Chris O'Brien and Garth Jackson. Garth, you hated motherfucker. How are you?
I'm absolutely thrilled to be here to talk about this momentous pay-per-view that I was there in person for. 10 out of 10.
And there we go, guys. That is our review of... It's just Garth, one man, 10 out of 10. Chris, how are you?
Livid. And not for why you think.
And not for why you think.
Livid because it didn't go longer.
More Matt Morgan.
So Thursday is family shopping day, and as my dad left the door, he was like, do you want anything? I'm like, yeah, I'll put 10 in your bank, and can you get me just some random beers? So he came back with a low alcohol 0.5% premium cider. And I am like, does my money mean nothing to you?
Is this him trying to tell you something?
Here's the thing. I didn't bite his head off because it is his birthday, but he's lucky it's his birthday.
It's his birthday, and you made him go out and get you beer.
Just wait until tomorrow, Dad.
He was going shopping anyway, and he was just like, do you want anything? I'm like, yeah, just grab me some random beer. And he got me some actual beer. I'm on the Newcastle Brown tonight, but...
Oh, lovely.
Yes. It's a special beer to us.
Have you drank the cider, or has the cider been tipped away?
I mean, the cider was... It's basically a fucking fizzy drink at that point, isn't it? So I just had it with my lunch.
Had it in the morning with a brew. It was lovely.
It has no alcohol in
it. Garth, well, we're talking about alcohol. What are you on today, good man?
I'm on the classic beer d'or, 4%.
What? Nice.
And green tea with lemon and honey.
Of course you are, you massive, massive old man. I am on a huge fuck-off bottle of San Miguel, 660 millilitres, which I believe is 2 pints.
How much of that is down your self at this point?
Yeah, I've not had the greatest start to the podcast, I'm not going to lie. I've pulled my headphones out 3 times because of my fat fucking head. I've spilt beer down myself and I fell asleep, so I missed the start of the podcast. So it's going well. It's going well this morning. Today in general.
10 minutes. Already delayed podcast.
Exactly. And then to top off all of that, we have come together today. I just want to refresh your memory slightly, listeners. The last time we did a retro pay-per-view review, which was actually the last podcast, it shouldn't have been. We had recording issues last week where we did the entire podcast and realised I hadn't actually recorded Chris or Garth. So you would just have me monologuing myself, which admittedly probably would have been more entertaining than what the fuck this show will be. But yeah, the last retro pay-per-view review we did was ECW Heatwave 1998, which was top to bottom a very, very good show, which all three of us really, really enjoyed.
We can all agree that I have really good taste in wrestling.
And what we have for you today is a show that Cage Match overall has rated 3.75.
Out of 5?
Out of 10.
Out of 10. Out of 10. You know it's out of 10. A match where only one match is worth your time, according to the Wrestler Observer newsletter, where the average rating in 2009 upon its release was 3.85. It went up apparently in 2010, fuck knows why, to 4.33. In 2012, people really fucking hated it. It has an average rating of 3, which leads it to its overall rating being 3.75 as it stands. Yes, we are going to be reviewing TNA Hard Justice 2009. Now, just a couple of things, Garth, before I throw to you and you explain your fucking self. I want to preface this by first of all saying that Garth wrongly told us that it was Hard Justice 2010, which is a much better fucking show.
He also wrongly told us it was Lockdown 2009, which is real new and wouldn't have required Rob to take out Impact Plus for the 3 of us.
And then, on top of that, this preludes Surrender 2009. No Surrender 2009, which is an infinitely better show.
Where AJ Styles wins the championship.
There's,
you know, on the show, AJ Styles.
Garth has managed to pick, basically what we're trying to say is Garth has managed to pick, and this isn't anything against Impact TNA. I'm going to say throughout this pay-per-view, I've got real nostalgia for TNA, especially with this era of TNA. But this show, spoilers, this show is the fucking drizzling shit.
I promised myself a long time ago that no one would hurt me, and if my name was Matthew, you would have disappeared by now. But yeah, just I hate it. I one of the people demand genetically made disappear.
Yeah, it's not good, Garth. It's probably one of the worst shows I've ever seen.
But is it worse than the Big Brawl?
Yeah, okay. The big event, admittedly, it's not as bad as the big event, and yes, it's not as bad as Collision in Korea. But Collision in Korea, you had all the background, you know, first American show in North Korea, you had all these things, at least that we could talk about. This is just wank. This is just grade A fucking shit.
Can I be honest? I think Collision in Korea is better. Hear me out. One, it's more interesting to look at in terms of history. In terms of history, this is just a TNA show. And then also you had the Steiners versus Kensuke Sasaki and What's-His-Face match, which was really good.
What's-His-Face. What a competitor.
Yeah. And also the Joshi match. I knew I said, right, you'd call me a Mark.
You are a massive Mark. A huge Mark. Mark Markuson. So, Garth, before we review this wretched show to the 4 people that haven't turned off realising this is what we're covering, why did you choose, why did you make us sit through this absolute fucking nonsense?
Because I was there. That was basically it.
Yeah, reasonable.
And like, I hadn't watched it since then. And I thought, it'd be interesting to watch to see what it was like. It was very interesting.
It's not. Honestly, there's nothing that I can say. And I mean, we might as well just delve straight in. Before the show even fucking starts, we need to talk about this opening video package, because honestly, it's an opening video package for the ages, narrated by Stephen fucking Hawking, apparently.
Is it Stephen Hawking? Like, do you think they actually got Stephen Hawking or Microsoft Sam?
I imagine Stephen Hawking and Jeff Jarrett are very close, to be fair.
Yeah, they both go, Christ, there's no joke there.
No, there really isn't. It's all about the importance of DNA, and it's all splicing in footage of Matt Morgan, who claims to be the DNA of TNA, which is a far catchier name than the fucking Blueprint.
They really, 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 really were high on Matt Morgan at this point.
Blueprint. All that describes for Matt Morgan is back tattoo because it's not finished yet.
Oh, we need to talk about this back tattoo. And seeing as you brought it up, Chris, we might as well use that segue. Is it the worst back tattoo in the entire world?
It looks like he said, "Give me Brock Lesnar," and they fucked it up.
It looks like they've said, right, how much would the Brock Lesnar back tattoo cost me? About $1,000. Right, well, I don't have that. I've got 80. What would that give me? It gives you what is basically a Digimon on your back.
It looks like, I thought it was a moose.
You thought it was a moose?
Don't you fucking despair the name of fucking Digimon on that back tattoo?
Digimon. That was like the shitty Poundland version of Pokemon.
Yeah, it was awful.
I will fight you. I love that show.
Of course you did, because you're a fucking millennial.
I'm actually too young to be a millennial.
Did you hear that silence, Chris? That's everyone listening to this podcast hating you.
Everyone said that to my friend. She was like, "Yes, that's millennials." I'm like, "I'm actually just too young to be a millennial," and she was like, "That's the worst thing you've ever said to me."
Yeah, it's up there with the worst things you've ever said. Full stop. I think. So after this unbelievably cheesy video package, and again, you're going to be seeing and hearing a lot about Matt Morgan throughout this entire show, who is, by the way, a mayor of Lockwood, Florida. So fair play to him. And he's absolutely shredded. I don't know if you've seen a photo of Matt Morgan recently, but he is absolutely jacked as fuck.
Rumor has it he didn't have a manifesto, just a blueprint for one.
Whee.
Oh, God.
I believe I made that joke when we reported.
Oh, this San Miguel is going to have to go down so well. We cut straight to our first match, which was an X Division #1 contendership Steel Asylum match with Daniels. Very important that it's not Christopher Daniels, it is in fact just Daniels, defeating Black Machismo, Jay Lethal, Consequences Creed, Chris Sabin, Alex Shelley, Suicide, Amazing Red, and the debuting The Pope D'Angelo Dinero. Now this is another reason I hate Garth, because we had the debut, the fairly boring debut, let's be honest. Not a lot happened for the Pope D'Angelo Dinero, but No Surrender, the following show, is the debut of Bobby Lashley. But no, we get D'Angelo Dinero, so thanks for that, Garth.
I love the Pope, he was great.
He was great as he progressed.
He's apparently CM Punk's most hated opponent is
Elijah Burke.
Yeah, he found him to be a diva. And if CM Punk's saying...
CM Punk's the biggest diva in wrestling.
I was just going to say, come on, talk about pot calling the kettle black. Jesus Christ. I love when #1 contendership matches are on pay-per-views. It makes them feel massive. I absolutely love it. Overall, I'm not entirely sure how I feel about the Steel Asylum as a concept. Just hear me out for a second. The concept of it is basically it's a dome. It's a red dome. It's far easier to see into it than a Punjabi prison, let's put it that way. But the roof is slanted, and then in the top of the roof there is a tiny hole which you've got to climb up and out of. Now, I find I think there was far too many people in the match. I think 8 people was too many people. I think if they got 6, perfect. I think it was just everyone was a little bit too cramped with 8 people in there. And secondly, I just think that's a bit unnecessarily difficult to haul yourself onto the roof of a cage to then climb up through this really quite small hole. And I know these are X Division, these are people who are the highest caliber of athlete, or at least that's how the commentary team were putting them over. But even so, I do find that's a little bit unnecessarily. Yeah, it's unnecessarily complex. Those are my 2 main bugbears about the match, to be honest, because the rest of it I thought was absolutely fucking great, Garth.
Yep, loved it. It's weird watching it now. Obviously, knowing where all these people ended up. Like, obviously, like at the time, Jay Lethal was doing the whole Black Machismo thing, but I still, like, when I watch it, when I think back and I watch it, I think I was like, fucking, he was great, like, as a character and his X Division matches overall. But Chris Sabin and Alex Shelley were my two sort of MVPs in the match. Just the way they were working together and, like, the tandem moves they were pulling off. Consequences Creed was one as well. Obviously, he's known by other names now. But it's another one where you forget how actually he's so fucking good in the ring, but you never see it anymore. I know he's injured now, isn't he? But like WWE, he's never really had a run of like matches.
It's weird because whenever Xavier Woods is given the nod to be in a match, everyone always comes out of the match going, fucking hell, I forgot how good Xavier Woods was. There was a match, I'm sure it was the Money in the Bank 2017 show where he and Kofi defeated the Usos. And Xavier was absolutely great. He was the MVP of the match. But obviously, when you've got three competitors where you've got Kofi, who's been with the company for God knows how long, and Big E, who's been with the company far longer than anyone else realises, you know, it is difficult to put them all in a match. Do we think that Lethal Consequences is the greatest tag team name ever? They said that, and I legitimately popped. How sad is that?
I love that. I forgot. I'd forgotten. I was like, yes.
It's such an amazing name.
I think we are forgetting about the just majesty of naming, but it's head cheese.
Just quickly moving away from this, the AEW is it Deadly? Oh, what's it called? The women's tag team tournament they're doing anyway. And I'm not going to go into the whole women's debate that is absolutely flooding Twitter. But Tenora Conti, who has just been released from the WWE, has teamed with Anna Jay. And they were teasing for ages, oh, what's our name going to be? Oh, what's our name going to be? And they ended up just going with Tay J. I mean, that's so fucking anticlimactic. I was like, oh, that's fucking boring, isn't it? But Lethal Consequence, it just worked. And Black Machismo, what a fucking gimmick. I think it's up there. That's your Majesty tier of parody gimmicks, isn't it?
You have to thank Kevin Nash for that, because there was literally a whole thing where he was sitting down the X Division guys and going, you're all boring, so I'm going to give you all existing gimmicks.
I love the idea that he's just sat holding counsel.
I really, really hope he was in his doctor persona as well. Dr. Nash.
He was very accusing Sanjay Dutt of being on the juice.
Oh, amazing. I completely agree with you, Garth. I think the Motor City Machine Guns were by far and away the main sort of linchpin of this match. They were absolutely great.
It was another a match as well where they brought in Amazing Red, because he only ever used to come in for these sort of X Division matches every now and then, but it was always, whenever I used to watch a TNA show and Amazing Red came on, I was always excited because he always does crazy shit and he's so quick.
Have you seen his match with Ospreay yet in the J Cup?
No.
Seek it out if you have the time, because you'd love it.
It's another one that came out. I was like, I forgot about him. Yeah, he was really good. And that bump he takes as well off the top of the cage.
Oh my god. Flat back as well.
Yeah.
Oh my god, Red, 2,000 people maybe will see this in their entire lives. Don't risk your fucking body for TNA.
This is when TNA was shit hot, man.
Can I say what I think about the match now?
No. Anyway, so... No, I'm joking. Go on, I'm joking.
Okay, so I have a few things. One, immediately, Jay Lethal goes with the SmackDown versus Raw approach of just run for the cage.
But that's something that I love, because no person thinks to just, right, my aim is to get out the cage, right, fuck fighting you, I'm just going to race you to the top.
Believe me, it's one of the few moments of logic you're going to see in this match. Next thing, I do normally love these multi-man X Division spot fest, right? It's a guilty pleasure of mine. But the issue is, normally you have people sliding up the ring and selling off of the camera, but you can't do that in this match because we're in a cage. So you kind of just have everyone watching the action. And there was a few moments in this match where you could just see people watching the action. I do agree that the moves in this match are fucking incredible, especially the guns. I do agree that the guns are just probably the best tag team to never be signed, best American tag team, I should say, to never be signed with WWE, and yes, and including everyone who's currently signed to AEW. They're just incredible. Like, the fact that they've never had a big money run, and like, because TNA isn't a big money run, is incredible. Like, they're just amazing. And just like all the notes that praise this match are mostly the guns, because they're just incredible. It's like,
Did you not love that super mega Tower of Doom pile drive off the top rope?
Oh my god, that looked incredible with Suicide coming off the roof.
Here's the thing: when everyone was doing that, like that powerbomb spot, I was not a fan because logically, don't join in, go to the other side and climb. No one did. Like, I'm not being like just as like this is just this is going to annoy some people and not others, but like sometimes like what really annoyed me was when everyone was about to do the powerbomb. Amazing Red was climbing up the cage like someone should, and then decided, nah, I'm going to jump off and complete the powerbomb. Why?
Right. You are talking about booking logic, yet really enjoyed the match where everyone stuck their thumb up everyone's ass.
I'm not being funny. It was a very different context to an indie show like PWG. And what's meant to be the second biggest wrestling company fighting for its second biggest belt.
See, I disagree. I mean, you're always going to have, especially in a cage, you're always going to have moments where you can't go anywhere. And yes, potentially they could have hidden that slightly better, but I think you've got to look past that. Especially in this match, yes, booking sort of goes, and logic certainly goes out the fucking window on a couple of these other matches.
There was a point near the end where Daniels is hanging there with the Pope starts sliding.
Oh, I know what you're going to say. Yeah, okay.
He hasn't been selling his leg for the whole fucking time. And then suddenly his leg hurts because I'm not allowed to climb. No one's targeted his legs. He hasn't sold his leg once. And the commentators didn't realize he was selling his leg because they said, oh, he has animosity with Suicide. How? They've never met.
Yeah, it was very, very strange that Daniels, having thrown Amazing Red down to take that awful bump which we spoke about earlier, so Daniels is hanging from the cage roof via his leg. There is nothing, because everyone's been taken out with, huge moves. There is nothing stopping the Pope from going through the hole, but instead he fights with Suicide, who he's had minimal contact with in this match. They've probably had the least to do with each other in this match, and just has this inexplicable need to climb back down the cage to fight him, leaving Daniels who's been hanging there with his legs stuck. So you think, oh, that's obviously a story beat. And it's not. He just frees his leg, climbs through the hole. Which, I do agree with you, Chris, that was certainly a moment, and for me, admittedly, the only moment, where I was like, what the fuck is that? Why? Surely if Daniels is stuck, there's a reason he's stuck. I didn't really understand that. But the rest of the match, and I know that it's sort of a staple of these matches where we just get one finisher after another, and just there was that sequence where everybody hit their finisher.
Yeah, in the middle.
Yeah, it was so gratifying, and I know that people are just going to say, yeah, well, it was spot, there was no logic, it was just spot after spot after spot after spot. I don't care. It looked fucking great. That press slam gutbuster that Consequences Creed did was amazing. The Blue Thunderbomb from Daniels, Machismo hitting like this satellite sit-out face buster. Just amazing.
He's like just so smooth. Like, he was doing like belly to bellies and things like that, and they just looked so crisp.
Do you know
I constantly forget how good he was.
Do you know who's playing Suicide at the time?
Well, I was going to ask you this. I thought it was Kazarian.
It is Kazarian.
Because he went through about 14 suicides, didn't they?
Daniels used to sort of swap.
Who's played Suicide? It was Daniels. It was
TJP.
TJP. And someone else. Austin Aries. Austin Aries was Suicide at one point.
Austin Aries has been Suicide.
It was part of an angle.
I was just going to say that. You think about how, or the very idea of Suicide Austin Aries doesn't fit that. I mean, I know he's ultimately a cruiserweight, but what?
He was suicide in the same way that Chris Jericho was Doink.
I forgot. Oh my god, man! What are they doing to you? No. It's supposed to be. It's an angle, mate. Anyway, so ultimately, the winner of this would go on to face the winner of the Samoa Joe versus Homicide match later on the night. At Note 2, face them at No Surrender for the X Division belt, with that winner ultimately being Daniels. Jeremy Borash then catches up to Daniels on the ramp, which it really winds me up, and it's something that JR used to do before he eventually moved to commentary in the WWF, where they just catch you on the ramp. It's like, they've just had a match, fuck off. Catch them later on in the night.
It's the worst time to interview someone, because, like, is there any way to, like, I'm not being fun, like, even when you've, like, worked out for a while, you can't really cohesively talk for a couple minutes.
Exactly.
So, like, after, what was this? A 16-minute match, which I think may be the longest match on the card.
It is by miles.
Oh, it is? Jesus Christ. I hate TNA. Yeah, it's just not the best thing to do. Also, why isn't JB on commentary? He's the best thing in this company.
Well, yeah, quite.
Because I got Don West.
Yeah, exactly. You've got Don West, who just says that this company is the most amazing thing in the world, and then inexplicably turns heel commentator halfway through the pay-per-view.
No, that's the thing. I think I mentioned this in a group chat, but like Don West and Mike Tenay spent half of this pay-per-view trying to justify TNA's existence.
I do like Mike Tenay, to be fair, and I've been watching quite a lot of old WCW, and his knowledge is amazing, and
especially next to Dusty, who knows nothing.
Well, yeah, exactly, and especially with Bobby Heenan, who especially later on in his tenancy with WCW didn't know a lot of the guys. Tenay was fucking great. Is he a play-by-play guy? No, he's a colour guy, but needs must, I suppose. Jeremy Borash then interviews Daniels. Basically says whoever wins, they're going to lose at No Surrender. He then finishes off by dedicating his victory tonight to AJ Styles, who's at home, apparently, too appalled at his best-of-3 series loss to Matt Morgan to come into work. And I think I speak for everyone when I say, if I'd lost a best-of-3 series to Matt Morgan, I think I wouldn't come in either. We then get more stuff.
What were we rating?
Oh, I apologise, yes. I give it 8. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Easily the best match of the night. Garth?
8.
Okay, Chris, you're wrong, whatever you've rated it, so...
I agree that it's definitely the best match of the night. But also, I felt like the structure didn't really lend to me remembering much. Like, earlier, just a thought experiment, I only watched this over the weekend. I tried to remember shit that happened without looking at my notes, and I couldn't. And I think that's because the structure didn't lead to anything being memorable. Like,
I think you could say that about a lot of like that type of match. So look at any of the matches on like an NXT takeover.
And also, you watched this match like 2 weeks ago. That's probably why.
I said over the weekend. I literally just said I watched it. But yeah, I give it high 6, low 7.
You're just wrong.
I mean, like, it's in line with what people in Cage Match said.
Even Meltzer gave it 4, and Meltzer hates TNA.
Meltzer gave 4.75 to fucking Lucha Bros versus Omega and Hangman Page.
Because that's Omega.
No, I was just going to say, Omega could shit in a bucket and he'd give it 4.
I mean, I'd buy it for 4, but...
We then get Lauren Thompson, who is interviewing Matt Morgan. It's here that I noticed for the first time that they're using Blueprint like it's his first name, and it's really annoying because it's just the way she's intonating it. She's like, Blueprint Matt Morgan. So, Blueprint Matt Morgan. It's like, it's not his fucking name. His Christian name. He wasn't christened Blueprint Morgan.
May I call you Blue?
So Morgan basically talks about how he's sick of having his chain jerked by Kurt Angle. Cheeky. He once wanted into the main event Mafia. He's now focused on the title, saying that an Olympic gold medalist or a wrestling icon neither of them can stand in the way of greatness, all while posing like a Poundland Randy Orton.
Do you mind if I read my notes verbatim? Because they're not long.
I would love you to, Chris.
Okay, so my first thing is why does the interviewer look so fucking confused? She's asking very simple questions. Why are you so confused? Maybe you're not fit for this job. Secondly, his voice doesn't back up his look. He sounds like a bitch.
It's like Brock Lesnar thing, isn't it?
Yeah, but at least Brock Lesnar has put. Why didn't you put Taz with fucking? Because Samoa Joe doesn't need a. We'll get to that.
Yeah, I am 100% with you there, Chris, because that's a note I've made later on. Why the fuck does Samoa Joe, of all people, we've all seen that thing this week that he did where he stood up to Seth Rollins and Murphy and it's the greatest thing in the world. Why the fuck does that need a mouthpiece? Good God.
Let's just move on, because otherwise we'll just complain about. Oh, next is my boy.
Well, just quickly before you start, because I know who you're going to talk about, we then get a video package all about the feud between Dr. Stevie, which is Steve Williams, not Steve Williams, Steve Richards, thank you, Steve Williams. Dr. Death, Steve Williams, and Abyss. Basically, Abyss is his patient, and after a squabble, Williams puts a $50,000 bounty on his head, as you do as a medical professional.
He's a former W employee working for TNA. Where does he have that?
Exactly. I was like, where the fuck? Jesus, I'm in the wrong profession.
He's a doctor.
Is he, though? Would you trust a doctor that you have a mild squabble and then he puts a bounty on your head? A bounty that is accepted by none other. Chris, who was it accepted by?
Very quickly, I do believe...
Jethro?
I do believe that he has people who can take people away, because he looks like Marty Jannetty. But he is joined by my boy, Jethro Holiday. And I looked into him on Cage Match, and someone has rated him on average 5.59, which I think is disgustingly low. For reference, that's about the same as the Phantom Menace gets on Metacritic, which is fucking disgusting. He's not the Phantom Menace of people. He's the Empire Strikes Back of people. People don't appreciate him in his time. He is the Van Gogh of wrestling. But anyway, Trevor Murdoch probably helped have the second best match on this card, and it was distinctly average. He is my boy, but you can only drag so much out of someone like Abyss. Murdoch, he had some good chops at the start. We can't take that away from him. Some solid chops. Not Walter, but, not quite Stacy Keibler. Murdoch jumped out of the way of an Abyss dive and threw him into the post. I thought that was great. It's classic workman stuff. Make someone else take the bad bumps, and then you look good. Perfect.
But the best bump was the chair.
Yeah, we'll get
so fucking random.
Murdoch missing an elbow into the ring post. That's some great stuff. Gets some great heat on the babyface. He's a perfect heel. Then he put a chair up half an hour before Abyss splashed. That was weird. So Abyss put the chair on him to do it was like the Yokozuna splash. No, the earthquake splash. And then Trevor Murdoch put it up about half a mile before Abyss turned up.
And at the same time, when I was looking, I was like, hang on a minute, that's going to hurt Trevor just as much.
Yeah, because Abyss is not a skinny dude.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but also, I don't believe a monster has testicles. So, what's that really hurting? Where did the chair go?
Who are you to say that Abyss has no testicles?
I mean, the monsters have testicles.
Have you ever met a monster?
A couple, yes, but I just described them as my ex.
Jesus.
Good grief. It wasn't bad. I mean, I know that you are a massive, massive fan of Trevor Murdoch / Jethro Holiday, but
Jethro fucking Holiday.
I can't take seriously anyone's name when it's Jethro Holiday. I don't give a shit if he's an outlaw. He's only an outlaw because his name's shit. If he had a good name, he wouldn't be an outlaw. He'd be accepted into society. No one is looking at the name Jethro Holiday and going, "Oh my god, I'm fucking terrified."
Oh, but it's like, yeah, you helped Marty Jannetty murder a gay guy, but like...
Will you stop making Marty Jannetty references?
You never specified how many I could make earlier.
You've gone over your quota now. You've put them all. You've spaffed it all up the wall.
You've also date stamped this forever.
I have date stamped this forever, but like I took your silence as many as you like.
Anyway, there were some good moments in this. Holiday attempting a float over, Abyss scouting it, not moving, catching him, and then sending him headfirst into a chair. That was great. And the match flowed quite well. There was a couple of weird moments, like where the fuck did he get the brass knuckles from?
Dr. Stevie.
Did Dr. Stevie slide them in? I didn't see that. It was like, where the fuck has he got them from? Why does he drop the lead pipe? You're beating the shit into him with the lead pipe. The ref is fine with it. Keep beating the shit out of him with a lead pipe. But yeah, that doesn't continue. Abyss ends up hitting a black hole slam, meaning that Dr. Stevie actually manages to keep his $50,000, yet seems really annoyed about it, and I don't quite understand why.
I have two. One, the crowd were chanting, despite the fact it was meant to be like a surprise black hole slam, the crowd were chanting it beforehand, so Garth never talked to me about cunty crowds again, because you were one of them.
It was you. You were the start of this.
It was you. It sounded Geordie. Second of all, in terms of keeping $50,000, he doesn't want that $50,000 more than he wants Abyss to not be around anymore. I personally, and I'm reading into this, I would always want $50,000 over a random man that I haven't really got that much of a beef with, if I'm perfectly honest. Garth, what did you think of this match?
It was alright. It was like, I can't really add much more to what's already been said. It was a decent.
I did take notes here.
But this is one thing that annoys us with inconsistencies in wrestling, and on this one is where Dr. Stevie is completely and utterly put into a coma with one punch from Jethro Holiday at the end when he turns on him, and it's like, well, hang on a minute. You could take about 10 or 15 of them in a match, but you take one outside of the rules of the bell, game over.
He's been pummeled by a monster for 8 minutes and 49 seconds, Gaff.
Not Dr. Stevie Holland.
Oh, then yeah, it's stupid.
I'll give it a 5 as an average match.
Yeah, my conclusion from this match was no frills, but a serviceable Hoss match, 5 out of 10.
I also gave it 5. One thing that did wind me up, and it was something I didn't mention before, whoever did the job of mixing the sound of the show did an absolutely fucking atrocious job, because the match graphic that comes up before each of the matches has a background track and then a man speaking about what is happening in the match, but the man is completely inaudible because the background music is so fucking loud. It's the job that they've done is absolutely atrocious. It's like
also the guy who's done the actual graphics has had an absolute nightmare as well, because people's names were just randomly inserted. Like, for instance, when Samoa Joe comes down, it's Samoa Joe. Then under his name, it's just got Taz. It's not like with Taz or featuring Taz. It's just got Samoa Joe, Taz.
Well, it's better than when Booker T comes out and it just says Main Event Mafia, offensively high on the placard, and then just Booker T like crammed at the bottom. It's like, you had so much space to play with. What are you doing?
I'm not being funny. Someone got paid for that, and Garth did all our graphics for free.
Yeah,
including podcasts he's not on.
It's because we pay him in cocaine. That's why. So anyway, we move on to our third match, which is for the Feast or Fired briefcase, which the British Invasion, Magnus, Doug Williams, and Big Rob Terry. I remember absolutely fucking nothing about these. But they've stolen the briefcase from Hernandez, basically, is the story going into this.
Rob, you forgot the Kurt Angle promo.
I did, didn't I? He's backstage talking to JB, and Borash basically makes this wild assumption there's going to be every man for himself. Kurt was great here because he just has this cool arrogance talking about how Matt's green and young, and come the end of the night, I'm just going to have a little word with him. Fucking great. Kurt Angle was great throughout the entire night.
Well, two things I enjoyed. One, well, not enjoyed, but one, he's looking really rough.
What, now?
No, then, it was the beginning of his distance there.
I mean, he is looking rough now, to be fair.
Yeah.
Isn't this when he was injured and he couldn't really train as much? So he lost loads of weight?
Yeah, that, and also he was on painkillers all the time because he was injured. And also, so after this promo, he gets up to go see Abyss. That will come into play later. Not Abyss, Matt Morgan.
I was just going to say, why Abyss?
They're just as shit as each other.
So the British Invasion, and this is going to play into what we talk about later, they are the current IWGP World Tag Team Champions during the ill-fated Impact TNA New Japan Pro Wrestling Alliance that led to Kazuchika Okada becoming the Green fucking Hornet.
I like to attribute this to New Japan's successes later on.
I mean,
Fuck off.
I think it's more.
It was Okada's best run.
Stop trying to trigger Twitter marks, Garth.
I mean, you marked it there. He couldn't even make it in TNA, for fuck's sake. No chance.
Anyway, so it turns out British Invasion are thieves and have stolen the Feast or Fire briefcase, which apparently makes them legitimate holders of the briefcase, which is absolute fucking nonsense. They put Hernandez on the shelf for 3 months, and basically this is his opportunity to get some retribution. The
amazing Rob Terry. What a talent.
I mean, this match lasted 9 seconds. And that in itself...
And it was finished with a fucking shoulder
That's
charge.
what winds me up. It's not the 9 seconds. I mean, he basically goads them all into the ring, takes out Magnus, takes out Douglas, and then just takes out enormous man-mounting Rob Terry with a shoulder tackle. A devastating shoulder tackle. 9 seconds... Hernandez gets his briefcase back. What the fuck is this? Rob Terry's in the ring screaming, "It's not over, it's not over. You've just been pinned after a shoulder tackle after 9 seconds. Shut the fuck up." What is this absolute fucking nonsense?
I wonder if Rob Terry either pissed in somebody's soup or they looked at it and thought, actually, this guy is absolute drizzling shit, so we need to get that off him right now.
He shat in someone's duffel bag.
There is no way he can have any type of title challenge ever.
He even took the shoulder tackle wrong because he ended up bumping just completely weirdly. Watch it back. He bumps in such a fucking strange way.
For the amount of time that I've watched TNA and on and off, I would gladly and without hesitation say he's the worst thing they have ever had in TNA, ever.
I mean, Matt Morgan.
He was fucking atrocious.
I mean, Matt Morgan, to be fair.
Matt Morgan looks like fucking Bret Hart compared to Rob Terry.
I mean...
Wow. I mean, wow.
Didn't Rob Terry... isn't he the guy who went with Robbie E? And he became Robbie T?
No, that was Jesse... somebody.
Oh, Jesse got it. Like, he became Mr. Spectacular.
But he was even infinitely better than Rob Terry.
I mean, like, Rob Terry, I was 12 at the time, so I can't remember any of this. But, like, I don't know, he was okay.
The best part about this is, later on, and we'll talk about it when we get to it, but there's even, like, a sort of fuck you to Rob Terry in the next match.
Oh, wait. Quickly, did you guys notice the font used on the British Invasion's...
The Beatles font.
Yeah, the Beatles font.
Yeah.
Like, we'll get into this when we get onto the actual IWGP match, but, like, they're really into their national stereotypes, aren't they? It's TNA.
It's America, isn't it?
This is America.
It's surprising they didn't come down with bowler hats.
Just Mary Poppins it all the way. Just embrace all the stereotypes. Come down drinking tea, eating crumpets.
Coming down on an umbrella and Mary Poppins yell.
Oh no, we wouldn't say y'all.
To be fair, I do like the little handshake they do. Him and Doug Williams.
Doug Williams had an amazing handshake.
What?
Wow.
That sounds weird.
It does.
But like,
yeah, it really does.
But like,
Next match.
Yeah, let's move on to confused Lauren.
There's a really good. I'll hand it to TNA on this, right? The video promos are really good for each match.
Yeah, they aren't bad, to be fair. Aside from that opening package that was narrated by Stephen fucking Hawking. They're all decent.
Well-known wrestling fan.
Well-known TNA fan.
They work out of a TV studio, so like I'd expect it to be somewhat quality.
Didn't stop them fucking up the match graphics, so did it? So Confused Lauren is back, and she's talking to Beer Money Inc. They have just lost the TNA Tag Team Championships to Steiner and Booker T of the Main Event Mafia, and apparently it's because they respected them. And basically, they are now not going to respect anyone, and they go into detail about all the things they've done to win matches. James Storm's list: spitting on people's mamas and kicking dogs.
I love Beer Money.
To the absolute disgust of poor Confused Lauren. They were great here. I love Beer Money.
I think Storm was great here. I'm going to read this note verbatim. My thoughts on Bobby Roode part of the promo. Bobby Roode cutting the promo that made up of emo teens tweets. We are sick of having feelings. We are sick of having emotions.
Jesus.
Every My Chemical Romance fan.
Like fucking listen to Welcome to the Black Parade one time.
So we then get another one of these video packages, which you're absolutely right, Garth, do a really good job of sort of introducing you to the feud if you haven't been watching Impact TV. We get a quick run through of the feud between Beer Money and the British Invasion as we're going for our IWGP World Tag Team Championship match. The British Invasion have aligned themselves with the World Elite, which is a stable consisting of Eric Young, Kiyoshi, and Sheikh Abdul Bashir, who is more commonly known as Davari, the manager of Great Khali and Muhammad Hassan.
So Kiyoshi is currently most recently known for stinking up all Japan.
There you go.
And I mean stinking up. He is fucking awful nowadays.
So you've got serial jobber Eric Young, serial manager Sheikh Abdul Bashir, and serial crap wrestler Kiyoshi. Good stuff.
And very green Magnus.
And very green Magnus.
But
in my notes,
Doug Williams, who was good.
In my notes, I have not referred to Beer Money and the British Invasion by their names. I've referred to them respectively as Storage Wars and UKIP.
Jesus.
I want to quickly start this match by saying I don't understand how a person who is supposed to be the mouthpiece of a stable can be so fucking abhorrent on the microphone. Eric Young was absolutely atrocious here.
I will defend Eric here. He is a great promo in the right context.
No. Stop defending him. He's a good promo now, and he's a great promo later on in TNA. Here, Chris, he's got no fucking idea what he's talking about. He lays out their manifesto in the most monotone, stumbling over words, not remembering what he's supposed to be saying, and this is throughout the fucking match.
You would have let me finish. He is not suited up representing essentially what seems to be a political organization is not Eric Young like you see him before. He was basically Eugene but better. He was
also hearing him talk makes my throat hurt.
Oh right. If you think that's bad, I watched the G1 Climax 27 earlier this year with fucking Takahashi Honda on commentary, and he sounds like gravel. He literally sounds like gravel.
It is really uncomfortable listening to both of them.
It sounds like the Christian.
But going for, like the Rob Terry thing I was talking about before. If you notice, they list all the countries that are part of this world invasion, but for the British invasion, they put England. And Rob Terry's Welsh. And it's like a big fuck you to Wales.
It's all basically England, isn't it? Let's be honest. Scotland, basically England.
I will fucking fight you. Here's the thing. Did you know it's the fucking Oriental font they used to introduce the IWGP Championship?
I did. It was amazing. It was absolutely amazing.
I'm so surprised we didn't say the Orient.
From the Orient.
And have that type of music as well.
Ding, 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 ding. It's always amazing when they play the stereotypically racist music for anyone Japanese.
So Garth, I don't know if you know this, but Yoshitatsu in All Japan recently has started using his WWE theme.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Was it not like some sort of like...
something
like,
you'd hear in a fucking arcade game, yeah.
Like a techno trance.
Yeah. Anyway, we're talking about all this because this match has fuck all to talk about. Apart from Magnus was really bad at this time. And
I thought this was alright actually.
I'm not saying Magnus is bad now. Nick Aldis is a more incapable champion of an indie fed like NWA, but like he could not work here.
You can see he's extremely.
He's very obviously green, and I don't put this on him because he's clearly only been going so long. I put this on TNA for having him on national TV. But like,
I don't think he's that bad. I mean, to be fair, like Doug Williams does most of their legwork anyway.
Not the start, for like first 5 minutes of his match,
and bumps for like a boss.
Oh, Williams was fucking amazing, even up until like his first retirement back in 2018 in Progress. I haven't seen any of his Noah stuff, but apparently it's all right. But yeah, Williams is fucking amazing. And
I have noted that at this point, like this is where Beer Money started getting like huge.
Oh, they were really over here. And like that sort of helped this match because they just did house show spots. Like, oh, we're gonna do the 69 thing.
Oh, that was shocking, wasn't it?
Like, I'm not being funny. You can tell this show's written by Vince Russo. That's literally the only part of this match I felt worth noting down, apart from Aldis's botches, because everything else was a sort of distinctly average. There's nothing that stands out apart from the bad things, which, like, I think...
Yeah, he had some good sort of tag moves by Beer Money, which you would expect.
I mean, yeah, that's the least I would expect.
Yeah.
Team on national television.
Yeah, it was just a decent tag match, not special.
I think it was bad. I think it was actually bad because it was average and then dragged down by the fact that a quarter of the members don't know how to wrestle at this point.
Eric Young spoke about how the pound isn't what it used to be, so they collectively need the winner's share of the purse.
Now, that's actually a lie.
What the fuck? Yeah, because for a start, I was in America in 2009. It fucking wasn't.
Exactly. I was there, and I'd got $500. I'd got $1,000 for just over 500 quid.
But that's what I mean.
So
like, if he's just inane prattle throughout the entire match, it was like that fly you can't get rid of because the fucker won't find the open window. It just shut up. And honestly, it got to a point where I couldn't concentrate on the match because all I was listening to was Eric Young droning about and stumbling. That was the worst thing. If it's just his monotone voice, that's one thing. But the fact he can't fucking talk, how did he become the leader of Sanity? And how did he become over later on in TNA? And indeed, earlier in TNA.
Eric Daniel Bryan Young.
Exactly, Eric Bryan Young.
That was so blatant. It happened literally 8 days after WrestleMania 30.
He wound me up so much.
What have you rated it then?
I tell you what I rated it. I rated it 3. I thought this match was awful.
Wow.
No, seriously, there was nothing like it was a distinctly average match. Bad shit, and when only the bad shit stands out, it's not a good match.
I've just gone 5. It was just the average middle of the road tag match.
Yeah, I've gone 5. The botches from Magnus weren't offensively bad, and they certainly weren't as standout as I think you found them, Chris, or I didn't find them as standout as you did.
I think it's because I'm just used to, like, from like 2013 onwards, Magnus he's never blow away, but he's always solid, and I'm just used to that level of quality. And I get it's kind of not fair, but also why put someone of that low a level on your national television program when you have AJ Styles off of this pay-per-view, when you have Frankie Kazarian in a mask, when you have access to basically anyone on the indies, and you don't take advantage of that for this weird British guy who can't do anything right now.
I thought I didn't really notice anything that bad.
No, the thing that wound me up about this match was Eric Young's commentary. And I will persist to tell you that was how bad it was. Now, boys, I'd like to read you my notes verbatim, as Chris would say, for this entire thing. So first, I'll read my notes verbatim regarding the promo that leads into this match. 1 second, Chris. Wait your turn. Then,
mine literally.
Don't care. Shush. Then
I'm going to let Rob handle.
We will go to the TNA Knockouts Championship match. I'll read my notes verbatim. And then I'll let everyone else talk, because I have thoughts about this fucking angle. So, anyway.
Pull up a chair, peeps.
Yep.
I'm going to open a beer.
Lauren is backstage once again, this time with a team of ODB and Cody Deaner, who will tag tonight against the Beautiful People, with Angelina Love's TNA Knockouts Championship on the line. Poor, confused Lauren begins to ask what will happen if Cody wins the title, but Deaner preempts what he thinks she is going to say and says, I know what you're going to ask. What happens if those 3 ladies in that ring try and rape Cody Deaner? And then underneath I've just written, fucking hell. Then underneath that I've written, Lauren then tries to keep the promo desperately on track by asking ODB what she will do if she wins the title. This is a mistake, because after calling it the Knocked Up title, ODB says that she will squirt lime juice over it, shine it up, and this is a direct quote, on her big monster boobies before putting it on her truck, taking Deaner for the ride of his life. And then underneath that, I've just written, fucking hell. Now, Chris, I believe you have notes about this promo. What did your notes say?
My notes literally just says, this sucked. I'm going to let Rob handle this.
Yep. That's it. We had a rape joke in 2009 TNA, because that is apparently acceptable. Garth, is there anything you want to add about this absolute car wreck of a promo?
The only thing I would like to say is Vince Russo 2009.
Vince Russo does not like women.
No, he doesn't. And
he really doesn't.
That sort of explains whatever the fuck this is. So, guys, again, just take a seat, and I'll read you my notes for this match, which is ODB and Cody Deaner defeating Angelina Love, who is the TNA Knockouts champion, and Velvet Sky. So, here we go. After the Beautiful People's hypersexualized entrance, in which we see altogether too much of Velvet Sky, we start the match, but not before the aforementioned Sky threatens ODB with her can of redneck spray. We open with ODB and Angelina Love, and though ODB initially overpowers Love, she misses a splash in the corner, which allows Sky and Love to assert control. ODB hits a shoulder tackle, tags in Deaner, who then slaps Velvet Sky repeatedly on the ass, while the crowd sing, "He's a pervert." And then
until it's red raw.
And then underneath I've just written, fucking hell. After this nonsense, we go back to Love and ODB, the former yanking the latter down from the top rope. Sky's tagged back in now, complete with enormous red hand marks on each ass cheek. Sky and Love continue to grind down ODB, not a sex joke, with a series of chokeholds before the challenger powers out and tags in Deaner. Oh goody, who then just full-on sexually assaults all three members of the Beautiful People by sticking his fetid tongue down their throats. Thankfully, he does eat a kick to the dick from Sky and a super kick from Love, but it doesn't scrub the image of this absolute fucking nonsense from my mind. Rain then attempts to spray Cody Deaner with the redneck spray, misses, sprays Sky instead. Deaner rolls her up and then joins along with the 3 count with hard slaps of Sky's ass. Surely this means that Deaner is the Knockouts champion. No, apparently ODB wins the title due to Deaner being on her team, though this wasn't mentioned at all in the lead up to this match. Deaner then clearly feels the same and storms off with the belt. Love and Sky then turn on Madison Rayne, but the referee wards them off, all to the soundtrack of Velvet, because Velvet Sky was the most over thing about this match, which tells you what a fucking mess it was. And then underneath I've just written, this was the worst thing I have ever fucking seen. Match rating, 0 stars. Now, Garth, I believe you gave this match 1 star, and I ask you, as a human being, how on earth can you listen to what I've just read and think there is a single star in that match?
I didn't realise it would go to 0.
No, okay.
I thought it was like Amazon reviews, but I thought at this time, and I remember watching it, the Beautiful People gimmick was actually quite funny, and also some of the moves in the match, the actual wrestling moves that they pulled off, weren't too bad, but other than that, it was an absolute car crash of dog shit and perversion and Vince Russo.
May I speak my piece?
If you dare say that this was anything more than a 0 star, I will kick you off this fucking podcast, Chris O'Brien.
As of the 12th of May of 2018, I have been a part of the PodMania Podcast Network. On that same podcast, I curated the metric on which we measure things, because you guys didn't measure matches, so I introduced 1 out of 10. Rob decided he liked it, brought it forward to all other podcasts. In that time, I've watched such classics as Yoshihashi versus Yoriyashi Tenzan, Yuji Nagata and Nakanishi versus Tenkoji. I have also watched matches not in Japan. For example, I was once forced to watch The Big Event, and this is the worst match I've ever watched for the sake of a review. I struggle to call this a wrestling match for all the reasons Rob discussed. And like on a deeper level, what we need to remember is ODB and Cody Deaner are the baby faces here. Sexual assault was used to gain baby face heat, not heel heat. It was
I wonder how much like Velvet Sky and Angelina Love knew what was going to fucking happen here, because she
lost their job.
She looked decisively shocked when he did that fucking backwards kiss thing. That was fucking disgusting.
And we all know that Velvet Sky cannot act worth shit. I want to read my at the end of all my notes I write a conclusion, so if I get lost I can remember how I actually felt about this match. I don't need to for this match, but I feel like what I wrote worked. So at the end of this match, this is what I wrote seconds after. This is before we attack Madison Rayne and Cody Deaner runs off with the belt. I feel dirty. There is nothing redeemable about this match. The stipulation was a non-starter. The workers are not up to par, and this includes everyone. Sexual assault being used for babyface fire would not be acceptable in 1999, let alone in 2009. Cody Deaner being framed as a good guy will forever amaze me, let alone him still having a job in the same company in 2020. And the sexual assault is almost a cherry on top of a pile of shit. This is a dud. This is a 0 out of 10. This barely counts as a wrestling match because there was wrestling moves, I guess. It was in a ring. None of the wrestling moves were, even beyond the sexual assault. None of the wrestling moves were done well because Velvet Sky is shit and still is. Angelina Love is shit and still is. Cody Deaner was capable and I guess still is, but like he did not try here. And ODB could barely move because I'm pretty sure she has back problems. Why does she keep slapping her tits? That's just...
The thing with her is you could see the people were struggling to do the moves because her tits are so big,
exactly.
and they were so fucking.
It was comical.
It was like, I just don't get how this. Surely somebody got scalded for this shit afterwards.
No, because Vince Russo definitely. Do you think it's cute of you, Garth, to assume that anyone but Vince Russo came up with this fucking
no, but that's what I mean. Somebody would have got scalded, not necessarily him.
Cornette would still be working for TNA at this time. Because he walked out about 6 months after this, and I know this because I listened to a TNA Jim Cornette podcast.
That's probably probably one of the fucking reasons, because that dipshit was running the show.
Yeah, exactly. And for the fact that no one apparently had an issue with this. I have watched some fucked up things in my time of watching. And when I say fucked up, that ranges from shit like this, where like sexual assault is the butt of a joke, to fucking death matches. And I don't like anything like that. And this is literally just the worst thing I've ever watched, especially for this podcast. When I watched this for the first time, I just said no, and I switched off the podcast. I switched off the show for a couple of days and came back and finished it today. That's what happened. That's what this match did to me. This match made me question. And like this show was already kind of doing that, but this match made me question, like, this is what TNA is what I watched back then, because I didn't have access to WWE apart from the pay-per-views. I just didn't. Like, TNA is what I watched week to week. How did I become such wrestling? Like, how did I become so obsessed with wrestling like I am now? Because I don't know how anyone would enjoy this. I literally, even like the most incel of incels would see the fucking set.
Honestly, even though I was at this match and there's at this show and there's bits and bobs that I like clearly remember, it was like watching it for the first time. I remember nothing. I don't know if it's because I'd went to the toilet, or if I just wasn't watching, or if it was just the fact that this was so shit. I have no reason to remember it, but I honestly do not remember any of it.
I just don't get it. I don't understand how this existed then. Is this rated anywhere, this match? If it's rated anywhere, it'll be on Pro Fight DB. So, like, if you guys keep talking, I'll look it up right now.
This was up, like I say, this was just the worst thing. This isn't 1997, 1998 Attitude Era shit. This is 2009. Yes. And just the entire thing fell off the rails. That poor Lauren Thompson, who's the backstage interviews, no wonder she was confused. Because how the fuck do you keep that fucking monstrosity together?
So I found Dave Meltzer's rating for this match. It was 1.5 stars.
Really?
For reference, the other things that got up 1.5 stars on this show include Nash and Foley.
Fucking hell.
There's no way he gave it 1.5 stars.
This is according to Pro Fight DB, which is normally reliable. You have a subscription to the Observer, so you can get the official source, but according to Pro Fight DB, he gave it 1.5 stars. And quite frankly, I don't think Dave Meltzer likes women either.
What an absolute fucking travesty.
Dud, I don't think this deserves a rating.
No, absolutely not. No, Dud, no. As far as I'm concerned, Dud is for things like, comedy, parody matches that don't really, attribute to anything. 0 is even worse. So no, give it 0 because, oh my God.
For me, a 0 would count it in like the grander discussion of wrestling. I think putting it at all on the board means it's like, I don't know, for me it's like counting the 2005 United States Grand Prix as a Grand Prix, which it is, and I think that's a travesty as well.
Just fuck no, absolutely. No. Well, this would be the first match in history of PodMania's match ratings to get a 0. So I think it should be held as that because it's that fucking bad. And I don't know what the fuck Meltzer is smoking, but this is fucking
Why don't we
shit.
give it the first ever -1?
A -1 would be. Here's the thing: when I have rated stuff minus, not on like officially, but in my head I've rated stuff minus before, and I base that on ironic enjoyment. Like for example, I get a lot of ironic enjoyment out of say Ultimate Warrior versus Hulk Hogan at Halloween Havoc. I got a lot of ironic enjoyment out of that because everything went wrong. Same with most things like Heroes of Wrestling. This, I got no enjoyment out of this. I sat there questioning the art form that I love in pro wrestling, questioning my fellow man, questioning why I was even born, questioning if Stephen Hawking was on this card, because eventually, like, when I'm questioning why I was even born, I might as well question what happens when I die, and quite frankly, it'll give me a panic attack. This match almost gave me a panic attack. So, what I'm saying is, fuck this match. I don't care what you call it, it's just a bad match, and anyone involved in TNA at this, and like in management at TNA at this point, should be fucking still ashamed of this match. How this match doesn't rank with like the Jenna Maraskas versus Charmels or the Pat Pattersons versus Jack Briscoe's evening gown matches of the world will forever baffle me.
Do you want to read what I wrote down for this?
Yeah, go ahead.
I put fake tits and awful hits everywhere. Velvet Sky absolutely sucks. Cody and the harassment, what the fuck? Look at the state of Velvet Sky's arse after she took an absolute fucking pounding. Well, a slapping, I mean. And I just put horrible Cody shit. Dirty pervert. It's just like... And then, who wrote the shit? Oh yeah, Russo, you tit.
Why was Velvet so over? Is it just because of how she looks?
You what?
Why was Velvet so over?
Shake her ass at the camera a lot.
I mean, like, yeah, but like, I could shake my ass at a camera. I'm not going to get that popular.
It's not like hers, was it?
No, it's better.
So, Garth, what
Pretty
do you
much
want to
because
give
she
this?
is very pretty.
I just think we need to move
I'll
away
go
from this.
0, minus, whatever.
I'm getting 0.
Do it.
Right.
I mean, like,
go on, Chris.
I don't want to give it. I don't think it's a number. I just want to move on with my life. So, Taz and Joe promo. The Taz promo was really good here. One thing I will question is why does Samoa Joe of all people need a mouthpiece?
And why is he doing the Taz thing?
Yeah, why is he wearing a hood? Also, why does he have a cock on his face?
Well,
like, I know it's funny, that's
preference,
not going on. Kevin Nash has put paint on his cock and slapped it on Samoa Joe's face. That's the only...
Well, he stood over him and just lobbed it on.
Yeah, I like, there you go. And then, like, the patterns are always a little different each time. And it's always in a slightly different part of Samoa Joe's face each time. But not that different because Kevin Nash is very precise and, by the looks of it, has a very thick phallus. Now, this promo.
This is just... go on.
It was... Taz says... It's weird. The beginning of it was Taz saying a lot, but not really saying anything. And then basically going, Joe defeated himself on Impact, so therefore, because Joe has trained himself not to beat himself in the Nation of Violence, Joe will now not beat himself and he'll beat you. Like, it's fine. Like, the subject is fine, just Taz is inherent. It's like Bray Wyatt, how he can spend 10 minutes saying nothing, but you're still sort of on the edge of your seat, especially Rob. But yeah.
The whole Nation of Violence thing, I don't get because it's... Well, is it one guy or was it supposed to be a faction?
Right, Garth, I was 12 at the time.
Is it somewhere that he went?
I cannot remember.
Are you saying it's like an island?
Just like,
next stop,
yeah.
Nation of Violence.
Yeah. Taz is Nation of Violence.
He is a rock. He is an island. Okay,
This was blatantly, and you can tell it when Joe is in the ring. It's Joe at his least motivated I've ever seen.
And I don't want to be rude, but you can tell it by his size. Like, he's clearly not trying. And, like, this match was fine. I don't think Joe is capable of having a bad match per se, but nothing in this, like, there was 2 occasions where I won't take notes. It's one of it's like because I can literally count on one hand when it's happened for a podcast. One is when I think a match is so good that I get so in the moment, and like Kenny Omega versus Kazuchika Okada in the 2 out of 3 falls match happened there. Didn't take any notes. Had to go in purely from memory. Or it's so average, like, and I don't mean bad, I mean like average, but I have nothing to say. I have nothing to say about this match. I like Homicide, I like Joe. In fact, I love Joe, I love Homicide. Both of them, at various parts of their career, have amazing matches attributed to them, even up until recently for both of them, and 20 years ago for both of them. But this match, nothing to say. Couple of tokens.
I've got a few things. There's a pretty sick dive by Joe, which at this point he was doing it anyway all the time. But
that's when Joe died.
He seemed pretty fucking hard. And there was a bit that I wrote down. It was where Homicide was slapping Joe, and you could blatantly see and hear Joe say another one. I thought that was brilliant. He's like another one, and
it's throwing Homicide down. Another.
His chest was just absolutely like beetroot red.
But yeah, like I have nothing to say about this match. It's like
I like the finish where Joe had to sort of double down on his choke.
That finish was great. That finish felt legitimate, like when Homicide went for the obvious route out of the clutch and then because it's the obvious route out. Love that shit. That felt proper legitimate. The rest of it, this was a 5 out of 5 match with a 6 out of 10 finish, and I don't think a 6 out of 10 finish saved it. I think this is bang average. I cannot think of any reason I will ever think about this match after, apart from the cock on the face. That's the only reason I'll ever think about this match ever again.
Roberto?
Homicide's great. Samoa Joe's great. Don't know what it was. They had absolutely no chemistry whatsoever. Especially early on, it just seemed really choppy, really slow, and, you know, I'm a massive mark for Samoa Joe, but it seemed to be Samoa Joe who was really wooden, and just it seemed to meander a lot. It picked up towards the end, and, you know, it was actually quite enjoyable towards the end, but, yeah, it seemed to come out of nowhere. There was a really good point where Joe hits him with a powerbomb, and then as Homicide kicks out, he transitions straight into the STF. You know, it's something that he does all the time, but it's still something that's good. It was a very unremarkable match considering who was in the match.
5 out of 10.
5 out of 10. Like, literally, when I gave 5 out of 10 to the Trevor Murdoch match, I was like, well, Abyss is in there. Of course it was bang average. But here, I'm like, this should be an 8. This should be an easy 8.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of the story of this pay-per-view, really, isn't it? You know, there's quite a lot of promise in certain matches, but, you know, I mean, D'Angelina Love, Velvet Sky, Cody Deaner, and ODB match was just, you know, you look at it and on the face, Nothing. It's 10 out of 10. And just, I don't know what it was. It just didn't work. But here...
It's just all the writing. It was all in the writing.
Big one time.
It just, I don't know. I don't know what it was here. It seemed to go... It was a very bad numbers match. It was a TV match.
Yeah, it was like they weren't interested.
I just wanted more. I mean, I did give it 6, but I think I was being generous. I'm more than happy for it to be 5.
I think part of it is like you're swept away by like the talent in there. It's like Homicide is great, and Samoa Joe is like one of those people. It's like, how are you not one of the biggest things to ever happen? So like you're sort of swept away, and then like, but when you get into the brass tacks of this match, apart from the finish, I don't remember anything because it's just Samoa Joe shit. And then afterward, you know what it's like, Rob? Remember when we reviewed No Mercy and it was RVD versus Ric Flair?
Yeah, and we talked about it being oil and water.
Yeah, exactly. It's like that. It's oil and water mixing, not to create a rainbow, but then there's oil on the floor and someone spunked on it. That's basically.
It was like a paint by numbers match.
It was. It was like there were two computers and they wrestled like that by design.
Mm-hmm.
So we move on.
Moving on.
JB catches up to Kurt Angle as he enters Matt Morgan's dressing room, which is...
How big is the impact zone where Angle got up an hour ago? And did it take him an hour to walk to Morgan?
It wasn't even that I noticed. It was the fact that Matt Morgan absolutely dwarfs Kurt Angle as he stands in place. Just, honestly, the difference must be about half a foot. It's ridiculous.
Oh, I actually noticed
It's a full foot.
I noted that when we got to the main event, when he put Sting, Angle, Sting, and Morgan next to each other, it's like me. It's like Garth, me, Rob.
Yeah.
Basically, Kurt says, "I know you want into the main event Mafia. You can be in to the main event Mafia if you do one thing for me, and it's just to make sure that Sting mustn't win it. Either of those two can win it." Because then it stays in the main event Mafia, but it cannot go to Sting because it'll give hopes to, and I quote, all the young pricks in the dressing room.
So Kurt would secretly go.
Morgan begrudgingly relents, they shake on it, and that's that. And with that, we move on to a video package, sort of going through the feud between Booker T and Scott Steiner and Team 3D.
My favourite part of this package was a line from Bully Ray. If I knew being screwed felt this bad, I'd have stayed a virgin.
Yeah.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. But yeah, then we move on to our semi-main, which is, as I've mentioned, the main event Mafia team of Booker T and Scott Steiner defeating Team 3D for the TNA World Tag Team Championships. Brawling. All of the brawling. And a wild Garth appears. That's basically what my notes were.
Oh, but that's literally the only... Right, so I do have more notes. Mostly going, how did Team 3D get less pyro than ODB?
I didn't even notice that.
To me. ODB got so much pyro. It's amazing. But it was a standard Team 3D match. We brought into the crowd. I'm sure it's great for the crowd, as Garth will probably attest in about 5 minutes. But as a match, my main thing here is not much happened, and what happened was fairly wank. Like, the highlight was Scott Steiner very awkwardly jumping from a raft, not even a rafter, it was 3 feet up. Also, what the fuck was up with Booker T's entrance? That was not a Booker T entrance. He was like...
What was he flexing?
Yeah, you know what's weird? Around this time, he was also talking in his Jamaican accent, and I looked this up. Turns out, he was looking for film roles at the time.
Brilliant.
And
I love that.
No, so he just kept doing weird shit, and TNA kept going, please stop doing the weird shit. And he's like, no, I'm trying to show my range.
Please stop acting on telly.
Yeah. The one thing I did note here was, next 3 notes I'm going to read verbatim. This is awesome. No, it's not. It's dull. Shut the fuck up. You're not sheep. Stop acting like it. Then not much happened. It was fairly wank when something did happen. And then fucking dusty finish, 2 out of 10.
Really?
Well, it was a 3 out of 10, and then the dusty finish happened, and it was a 2 out of 10.
I quite enjoyed this match.
Of course you did. You were there.
You were there. This match was designed for the...
Even watching it again, I quite enjoyed it.
You were that close. You could hear Booker T's Jamaican accent.
You joined in and we get the... You probably joined in.
I've got the pictures to prove.
Yeah, you did. That should be the thumbnail for this podcast.
Just Garth's face.
Garth putting on the TNA belt. Go
on, Garth, then. Disagree with Chris. Why do you think it was good?
I thought it was just a fun brawl match. It was nothing inherently bad about it. I liked the bit where Brother was absolutely fucking brutalizing Scott Steiner with the railing. that's where it cut away, and you can see me in the corner there next to Bubba, next to Booker T. I mean, where he's kicking the shit. I'm sure at one point he falls down the stairs.
He misses the. Chris mentioned a dive off the advertising boards, which he does do. He does a flying clothesline off there. He does miss it the first time because he falls off the advertising board, which is both hilarious and terrifying all at the same time.
I liked the Doomsday device, but you know where like Booker T is supposed to move the chair out of the table out of the way. You can see they have to like sort of slightly alter the move because Steiner's head's going to smash into the side of the table because Booker T hasn't moved it far enough. It's just like fucking hell, man. At least try. I thought there was a few. Dare I call them near falls, like decent near falls after some like a power bomb and stuff. I thought it was just a fun match, and honestly, I quite enjoyed the stupid finish. Because I was watching it, I was like, VAR. It's VAR, which is a football term, Chris. Where they go to the thing. I'm positive when they first go to that monitor, there's nothing on it. It's a blue screen.
It's not even it's not a monitor. It's not a monitor. It's just not a screen. It's a box they go to.
But I just thought it was just daft and fun. I'll give it a 6 out of 10.
The finish was stupid. The match was dull apart from the last 3 minutes. I agree. Some of the close 2 counts were great. You know, I'm never not gonna pop for a 3D. But if you're having to do television replays where the crowd can't see what's going on, and then not only that, it took them a maximum of 8 seconds of intense scrutiny before they established who won. 8 seconds. That's all it took. Yet on the replays, no one could possibly see whose hand had gone down first. But in 8 seconds, because let's not forget that there were 2 referees in here for reasons. Just absolute nonsense. They decide that the main event Mafia win, though when you look at the replay, if anyone wins, it's the fucking Dudleys. Just absolute nonsense. The first 10 minutes, I mean, they're in the crowd within, what, a minute and a half? They're in the crowd, and they're in the crowd for a long, long time. I found it very slow. The brawling was a bit uninspired. It picked up in the middle, like I said, and then it was mired with one of the more questionable endings, and the crowd hated it because they were shouting bullshit around the arena.
It was funny when Booker T gets thrown like the crowd the first time, and you can tell they haven't told the crowd to move back. And he's just like sandwiched between the crowd and the
ends
rail
up on
end.
someone's knee. Just, I'm stuck.
There was actually a controversy about something like that in ICW because Luke King Sharp, he's about 4'11", and when he got thrown out the ring, he'd always like jump over a barricade. But there'd always be a moment where you could see he was looking for a fucking attractive woman to fall into the lap.
Nice.
What an idiot. I gave this 3.
I gave this a 3 until the Dusty finished, and then I knocked it down to a 2. Like, honestly, if there was Joe Gertner here, it might be a 4, but there was no Joe Gertner, I'm afraid, so...
Yeah.
Very,
very bang average match. Borash is backstage again, seemingly staring at a caricature of himself and Mick Foley. He then talks to the actual Mick Foley, and he talks about the pride he's got for the belt, whereas Kevin Nash just uses it as an excuse to put some more dollar signs on the end of his name. Yeah, exactly. When it comes to comic book conventions, of all places, he said. And then that leads to our TNA Legends Championship match. Now, this was changed, or... Now, Garth, you might have to help me out here. Either it was the TV Championship and it changed to the Legends Championship, or after it was called the Legends Championship, they changed it to the TV Championship.
I think it changed after, because then that's when Team 3D split up and Devon had a run with it. But it's the same belt.
Yeah.
I actually looked this up because I was confused as well. So what happened? It was the Legends Championship. It was like the Booker T's $1 million championship, and then he decided to defend it, so lost it. And then it became a TV title over time when they tried to be more professional. And then Devon won it and then left the company, and we never stripped him of the title. So he came back 6 months later, still the champion. And then when GFW tried to buy TNA, which was a thing, it became the King of Mountain Championship, which was won by Jeff Jarrett. And then it became the Grand Championship, which is a very Irish way to describe things. And B was like an MMA championship. It was weird.
It had the round system and judges and all sorts, didn't it?
Yeah, and then it got retired, and we're just like, we'll just use the X Division belt because it's easy.
I like the idea of a Legends Championship. I think there is a place for something like this, definitely, especially, at this time in TNA's sort of tenure when you look at some of the legends that they were actually, continuing to use. Is Kevin Nash versus Mick Foley in 2009 a semi-main on any sort of pay-per-view? No, absolutely not. Especially as Foley is in, the last desperate throes of his professional wrestling career.
Did you see Kevin Nash walk to the fucking
he
ring?
got there without tearing his quad, which is impressive in itself.
Which is more than you can say for most eras.
Exactly. But I quite like the idea of a Legends Championship, and I think they should bring it back. This match, I'm going to forego all my notes just to talk about the fucking blade job of Foley's that was
unbelievable,
so dangerously close to his eye, and B was just pissing throughout the entire match from there. The poor bloke was blinded.
Blood ended up on a camera.
It did. I quite liked that. I thought it had a really, really good camera shot. Because obviously at that point you were doing it through the blood. I thought it looked ace. We got Foley tearing hair out of his head like it's 1996. Amazing. But I quite enjoyed this match, I'm not going to lie. It's probably one of my favourites on the card. In fact, it's probably my second favourite on the card.
My notes are an absolute roller coaster for this match. So it starts with me fucking hating it because neither man can move and both men are trying to wrestle and it's not good. And then I was really annoyed because they missed the Foley elbow and just got the shot, and then it cut away to black because, again, that's the thing that happened on this fucking pay-per-view. Apparently they didn't upload the DVD rip. Sure. And then it was back to that. And then that middle 3 or 4 minutes where Kevin Nash was boxing with Foley and Foley was bleeding and blood was flirting everywhere. Love that shit. Love it. And then the ending happened, which was pure wank. So it's like, wank. This is all right, actually. Back down to wank. It was like fucking season 11 of Doctor Who.
What is it with you with Doctor Who references on this podcast?
It's my favourite show and no one else watches it. Well, no one else I know watches it. Loads of people watch it, but so many of them are weirdos. Anyway, the ending was baffling. I don't know who that girl is, but I was thinking by the time we got halfway through this match, if this actually had a proper ending, which TNA doesn't do if this pay-per-view is anything to go by, then it might get a passing grade. But then that fucking ending happened and they missed how Kevin Nash got the ending. Foley just fell over and Nash got the pin. Fucking fast anticlimactic in a match where they were literally fucking boxing blood onto a camera. So, yeah, it was good in the middle, but the start was wank, the end was wank. It was still probably my 4th favourite match on the card. I like the Joe match better and I like the Murdoch match better, but yeah, this is wank for the most part.
Go on, Garth.
Garth liked it.
Again, it's It was a decent match. It was a Mick Foley match, which 9 times out of 10 is an average match for me anyway. Because
I'm sorry, but like, if you think this is an average Mick Foley match,
but he's very limited. Even when he was at his most fucking agile, you could tell he trained himself in his back garden.
We had not an argument, but we had a discussion about this on the Lost podcast from last week, where you said to me and Rob, name like a great Mick Foley match, and we named like 12.
And I disagree. But
because Shawn Michaels isn't one of them, that's why you disagree.
This is it's a 4 out of 10. And the only reason I give it that is because it looked like Kevin Nash actually tried in this match. And he even bothered himself to cut himself.
Did you guys notice Kevin Nash's Kashmir ripoff for his entrance?
Yes.
Oh, he's all yeah.
An absolute ripoff of Led Zeppelin. And rip someone off. It might as well be Jimmy Page, everyone else does.
This match was fine. It was like I say, it was a match where you were going to get blood guaranteed anyway. And then the barbed wire back comes out. I'm guessing it wasn't real barbed wire because he smashed Foley over the head with it.
I think Foley just doesn't care.
And then, for no reason whatsoever, Abyss comes out. Is it because he also has a barbed wire bat called Janice?
That's TNA in a nutshell, isn't it? It's like something was happening, and then for no reason, Abyss.
It was fine. Like 4, maybe 5.
I agree it's a 4, but I don't agree that this is an average Mick Foley match.
Again, you've got to remember that, you know, looking at Mind Games, which I think seems to be the tentpole for any Mick Foley match, you know, that's 1996. This is 13 years later than that. You know, it's 12 years after the Attitude Era. It's
3 years after his last great match, Revenge.
It's a lot, and the bloke is, you know, he's broken. It's unfair to expect him to do this.
But it's also at that point done putting on a television show.
Yeah. But I quite enjoyed it. It was far better than I thought it was going to be. I think that's probably because I went in with lowered expectations. But yeah.
No expectations, like none.
Sting's backstage with Lauren Thompson. Make sure that...
What?
Go on.
What are you rating it?
I gave it 5, but I'm willing to go for 4.
That's fair.
Sting's backstage, like I said, with Lauren Thompson. She makes sure that everyone knows that even though everyone is talking about Kurt Angle and Matt Morgan, there is in fact a third person in that ring. And this is the first time that anyone has mentioned the fact that Sting is also in this fucking match. He says as long as he breathes, he will never lose hope, and then makes a really, really clumsy AJ Styles reference on his way out for the match.
This is a bad promo. Like, the content was generic, and then the delivery was bad.
There was no need for it. It didn't add anything. Yeah, there was no point to it. There was no point to it at all.
It made me actively know. I know this is like 11 years later, but it made me actively know that Sting was going to lose. No one can get a promo like that and be expected to win. But again, Dixie Carter had an absolute fucking stalk on for Sting. Like, an unbelievable stalk on. Like, he main evented, I think, like, more Bound for Glories than Undertaker did Mania.
I don't think it's that. I think it's just the case that Sting had such ridiculous lose face that there was absolutely no chance he was going to win it. It wasn't even the promo. It was the fact that he came out and he looked so fucking miserable and put out that there was no way he was winning.
Also, so many times in the last, like, 2 years leading up to this, TNA just spunked Kurt Angle versus Sting up the wall. And, like, so essentially, they looked at the very tired at that point, Kurt Angle versus Sting feud, and thought, you know what, we'll add a bit of amazingness to this feud. It's the blueprint. Matt Morgan, you know that guy who was on Brock Lesnar's team at the 2003 Survivor Series and did nothing?
The guy who we've seen all night, yet we still need 4 separate video packages in the build-up to this main event. 1 to hype the feud, 1 to hype Matt Morgan, 1 to hype Kurt Angle, and 1 to hype Sting. And honestly,
To be quite
those
frank,
other 3 individual video packages for the actual competitors didn't need to be there. They didn't add anything.
what happened was this match went 10 minutes and they were like, well, fuck. We need to stall for time. And also, I'm very surprised that Seth Rollins, the architect, never teamed up with Matt Morgan, the Blueprint.
Wait.
And then also teamed up with the Twin Towers.
Morgan and Rollins and Sons.
The Blueprint, the architect, and the Towers.
Nice. Garth, what did you think of this match then?
Again, it's another one that I thought it was fine. I don't have a problem with Matt Morgan at all. Like, yes, he's a big lumbering oaf, but I don't think he's awful. I think he plays the gimmick of the big guy. Like, nothing here. Like, none of them here really. I mean, Sting is just Sting, and he's as limited as he was fucking 5 or 10 years before this. Like, again, Sting does Sting, and it's the same regardless. I thought it was fine. I thought, I mean, obviously they are so fucking high on Matt Morgan, it's untrue, but I loved all the individual videos they did before each entrance. I thought that was quite good. Give it like sort of, and I like how they always do the proper big match intros for them all. I thought it was good. I thought there was a bit where Matt Morgan, I think he had his back to Sting. Sting sort of clotheslined him over the top rope, but he kind of pushed him. And I was like, is that like a receipt? Is that Sting going like shoot?
That's shoot, brother.
Well, has Matt Morgan done something here that fucking Sting's not happy about? Because he proper leathers him, and Matt Morgan goes absolutely flying and smashes it like off the fucking side of the ring.
In front of his wife.
Yeah.
Who doesn't quite understand that her husband is being beaten the shit out of. She's just got a big, toothy smile on her face, just happy to be there, patting her husband on the back, no idea what's going on.
Like, it's weird. Like, both of you are in long-term committed relationships, and, like, I'm pretty sure if anyone beat the shit out of you in front of your partners, someone, like, they'd have some look of concern on their face, but wouldn't have a massive grin.
Probably not. I mean, she'd probably be laughing. She'd probably be the one doing it.
Maybe she would. No, I don't know. Anyway, yeah, this match was. I think it's the definition of average. This match.
I thought it was like decent. I actually liked the bit where Angle sort of pulls the rope down and Morgan comes flying out and he's like, "Look, I tried to save you," because Sting misses with a fucking drop kick.
That was so, like, Angle turns on Morgan was so predictable.
Of course it was, but so what?
Like, I know, so what? But like,
I've written down as well. He would go Hebner pulling another screw job.
We do get a "you screw Brett" chant, which is amazing.
There's two in here because he screws Morgan the first time. When he doesn't bother coming in because Angle's apparently hurt after eating Morgan's boot. He's like, "No, I'm not coming in to count during this match. I'm going to see to this guy because this medical guy, I need to supervise him." It's like, get it back in the ring, you dick. And then he does it the second time. He like slowly just lumbers himself into the ring, so Angle just pulls him back out the ring. And then Angle obviously wins when he smashes him with the chair. I just thought it was a fine fun. Again, I didn't hate it. I enjoyed it. 6 out of 10.
I didn't like this match, but I also didn't hate. Like, again, I have no strong feelings towards this match. Like, I forgot how much I enjoyed Sting and Angle's TNA theme. I think they're both great. Angle Tons of Morgan happened from a million miles off. But Sending to the medic was actively stupid, but again, at that point, I didn't care. I have 2 notes here. The first note I made for this match was they've been beating up Sting for like 5 minutes now. And then the next note was Sting's offense making me miss when he was getting beaten up. Because like Sting's offense wasn't like he was getting to the point where he was just wank, and he was wank for a long time in TNA. Like wank for a long time while being pushed. And he's getting to that point now. He's not quite in the t-shirts, taking Bully Ray to the limit, but like...
Hey, those matches with Bully Ray were good.
They were fine, but he might take off your t-shirt. I don't care if your tits are saggy. But yeah, nothing in this match made me care, and like it wasn't long enough to build anything. Like you have 3 motivations to get over, and you kind of got them over, but not really. And like, of course, Angle was okay. Of course, he was playing possum. Like, if anyone thought he was, like, it would be a twist for him to not be, for there not to be a twist. And then the only part really of note in terms of like what happened in this match was the unprotected headshot to Matt Morgan, which was purely disgusting and will either give or take away marks depending on who you are as a person. And then Angle gets the win because of course he does. Of course the big monster gets pinned. And of course Matt Morgan's push was for nothing. We'll see you next week at fucking No Surrender or whatever. And yeah, just watch Impact because quite frankly, pay-per-view isn't where we make our numbers. Why do we even do pay-per-views? Because WWE does, and that's all we know. It was fine. This match was fine. This match isn't... Your feet will stay warm because there's no socks being blown off in this match, and that's fine, I guess. I'm sure it was a live experience. It was great seeing Sting. It was great seeing Angle. It was a thing seeing Matt Morgan. But...
It was a thrill, is the word.
But there's nothing to be gained, nothing to be lost, apart from like your idle 10 minutes while waiting for the grave. That's what this match is. 5 out of 10.
I give it 6. Like it did. As a pay-per-view main event, it's not great. There should be more. It certainly shouldn't only last 10 minutes, and there certainly should be some more, I don't know, action in there. But I enjoyed, for what it was worth, I enjoyed the story of Angle and Morgan, even if Morgan is completely useless in the ring and doesn't know how to sell anything at all. Sting was in there for some reason, but I agree with you, Chris. Like he's far past his best here, and I actually found Sting a lot worse here than I did Foley. And I know that Foley was sort of in his environment, a hardcore area, not where he had to wrestle, but Sting here for me was just like past a point of caring or anything like that. And I think that's really sad.
I think the thing with Foley, like Sting for a time in WCW in separate eras was the guy, whereas Foley was never the guy. So Foley's never gotten out the mindset of I need to work really hard. Whereas Sting, especially in TNA, was treated like a god. So he's obviously doesn't need to try, and he didn't try here, and he didn't try a lot. Like Sting definitely had standout moments in TNA, but like there's large periods where. Like, can you name one good thing about his series with Jeff Jarrett? No, you cannot, because it was wank. And Angle was kind of the same, but he sort of has the excuse of being addicted to drugs over time. So, like, I give him kind of a pass because drugs do make... I don't wrestle and I don't take many drugs, but I imagine it impaired your ability to wrestle. And he still wrestles.
Jeff.
He couldn't go one. But like Angle was as crisp as ever. I think I do kind of agree with Rob here. Like a straight up 1-on-1 match between Matt Morgan and Kurt Angle would be more interesting because Kurt Angle can work magic with nothing. I mean, he dragged a great match out of Kane for fuck's sake. So the problem
you run into then is if you are running a pay-per-view model, which TNA were doing at this point, your standard TV and then one pay-per-view at the end of the month. Is your pay-per-view going to sell? I don't know, TNA was struggling to sell pay-per-views anyway, but is your pay-per-view going to sell with a main event of Kurt Angle versus Matt Morgan. Who's tuning in for that? So I do understand the insertion of Sting from that standpoint, but if you're gonna do that, then it needs to be a better match than what we got, because again, it's similar to the Samoa Joe homicide. It was fine. It was a match. There was nothing offensive in there aside from Earl Hebner deciding that he was going to play fucking ambulance man as opposed to actual referee. No, I'm not counting the legitimate pinfall you had over Sting, because I'm tending to Kurt Angle with these other 3 people. But yeah, aside from that, it's a small nitpick. Yeah, so I actually gave it 6. Garth, what did you give it?
I think I give it 6 as well.
Yeah.
7. 6.
Chris, just before I ask your rating, how do we feel about the big boot of Matt Morgan being called the Carbon Footprint? I really like that as a name, I'm not going to lie. I think it's great.
It's a name wasted on the most average wrestler I've ever seen in my life.
I think it's unfair for you to call Matt Morgan an average wrestler. I think he's significantly worse than average.
Actually, I'm on Cage Match right now. Let's see what Cage Match ranks. Cage Match rates Matt Morgan 6.19.
It's better than this pay-per-view, to be fair.
Yeah, I'm one of his any gold. Well, he has the look. That's one of the...
He did go on to win the TNA World Heavyweight Championship twice, to be fair. Yeah. He's a 2-time TNA World Heavyweight Champion, yeah.
How do I not know this?
At least I think he is. Go and check on Cage Match. I'm sure he is.
He's definitely a... Hang on. Cage Match titles. Nope. He's an NWA FUW champion. TNA. He's a 2-time tag team champion.
I apologise. Did he never win the big one then?
He's a 3-time TNA champion, because he also won it with Hernandez. He was also in a tag team with Joey Ryan for a while. But no, the only heavyweight championship he ever won was the OVW heavyweight championship.
I think that's wise, to be fair, because he was.
Oh no, the FNW, which is
Frontier North. Far North.
North.
I was close.
That's fantastic.
The Antarctic World Heavyweight Championship. It's just him and a penguin. So Garth, overall thoughts on this pay-per-view?
Barring the Cody Deaner debacle, it was fine. It was a 5, maybe 6 out of 10 altogether. Overall.
Okay. Chris, what did you think?
So, this is the worst show I've done Tag League, mind you, and this is the worst show I've ever done for PodMania. Only one match got a positive rating for me. Everything else was average or lower, mostly lower. It amazed me how the talent they had so much talent on this card and put all of them in the wrong places to do something good. And I don't understand this. I will never understand this show. And quite frankly, when you look at the worst TNA shows, you look at something like Destination X from earlier this year, which is famous for Brian Alvarez trying to get his money back on air. And that at least had a good Ultimate X match. The X Division match from this, I didn't enjoy too much because I don't think a cage format fits X Division, because X Division is a lot of selling on the outside and you can't do that in a cage. So, the only good match in this card was automatically handicapped. And then just, you look at the rest of it, and, I'm sorry, if the card has no real redeeming features and includes Cody Deaner and ODB versus the Beautiful People, I can't give it anything more. I can't give this card a passing grade. It has one passable match. And, a 2 out of, even with, the big event, where you can get something out of it from, you don't get something like that nowadays. You don't get like big Canadian stadium shows outside of WrestleMania. With Collision in Korea, there's a couple really good matches on there, as well as it's just interesting. It's interesting to see North Korea in a way that you don't even see from news crews. So there's nothing to be drawn from this. There's no joy. Like, even the X Division match, even if you think it's an 8 out of 10, watch the X Division match and then never watch anything else on this card, because it's not even laughably bad. It's just bad, and one thing actually made me question my fandom of wrestling. So this
I think you mean a little bit over dramatic.
I'm not being over dramatic. It was off. I literally turned it off and didn't watch any wrestling for 2 days. Do you realize how weird that is for me?
So, I put, aside from the excellent opening match, this was top to tail one of the most boring and uneventful shows I've ever watched. From the uninspired brawling of the TNA World Tag Team match and the stupidly convoluted finish, to the use of Mick Foley a good 3 years past when he should have retired, to the Homicide vs Samoa Joe match that promised so much yet delivered so little, to the main event and TNA's insistence on pushing Matt Morgan because he was ex-WWE, was 7 foot tall and jacked, despite the fact he wrestled like a cupboard full of ham. That's pretty much my take on the entire pay-per-view. I don't think it's as bad as Chris thinks it is. It's certainly not a great pay-per-view, especially when you consider that later that year they'd have Final Resolution, which was a great show, and had like match of the year contenders in Desmond Wolfe versus Kurt Angle and AJ Styles versus Daniels, or Turning Point 2009, which is also a great show. This wasn't great, and it wasn't because there was bad wrestling, it was just dull. They did, you look at Homicide versus Samoa Joe, which on paper is, a good match. They did everything they were supposed to, and nothing else. Nothing screamed out there. Beer Money Inc. versus the British Invasion. You've got James Storm and Bobby Roode in there, but it was the bare minimum and nothing else. And I think that's what it struggled with. It struggled with just being very formulaic and boring. And when they tried not to be boring, you look at the finish of the TNA World Tag Team Championship match, they just went about it in completely the wrong way. But yeah, overall it was a relatively boring show with very, very little rewatch value. I disagree with Chris, and I said this earlier on in the night. I really, really enjoyed the X Division match. The X Division #1 contendership match, Steel Asylum match. I thought that was great. Really good spots, great showcase for everyone involved, and made me realise just how good Jay Lethal's Randy Savage impression actually is. But yeah, what I would say to you is check out the Steel Asylum match and then go and check out Final Resolution or Turning Point, because they are better shows with better matches and have AJ Styles on the card. So go and check that out.
And don't watch the Cody Deaner match.
Never watch any Cody Deaner match. I think this is pretty much... No, actually, that's unfair. Just don't watch this match, because it's literally the worst thing I've ever seen, and that includes everything that isn't wrestling.
Before we sign off, can we get Garth, Cody Deaner impression?
Yeah.
Banjo-Kazooie.
You sound like Cletus of The Simpsons.
That's
It's a good way to it's a good thing to measure yourself up against, to be fair.
In that voice, can you say, I wash myself with a rag on a stick?
I'll wash myself with a rag on a stick.
Amazing.
That's made all this worth it.
Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Go and subscribe to the podcast anywhere you get your podcasts. Check out the website, www.podmania.co.uk. Check us out on Twitter at PodMania, Facebook, PodMania Podcasts. You can talk to me on Twitter at RealRobGoodwin. Garth, where can they find you?
At the Garthberg.
Chris, where can they find you?
At Bill Gates.
And we'll talk to you guys again soon.
You've been listening to the PodMania Pro Wrestling Podcast. Follow us on Twitter at PodMania, Facebook at PodMania Podcasts and YouTube and Instagram at Real PodMania. And check out the website podmania.co.uk. Until next time, wrestling fans.